Okay, do we have enough? Yeah. Larry, do you want to come sit down? Yeah. Good, how are you? Good. Great. Okay. This meeting of the Eau Claire City Council will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Here.
Berge.
Here.
Brewster.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Imboga.
Present.
Miller.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Schoen. Serrano.
Here.
Worthman.
Great, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Monday, June 9th meeting of the Eau Claire City Council. In case people are new here tonight, I'll just go over how the meeting will work on Monday nights. Staff will present on the item. We just have one item tonight. So Director Winters will present on that, and then council can ask questions, and then we'll open it up for public comment. If you want to sign up in the back, and I will prioritize those who have signed up first, and then open it up to chambers for anyone else who would like to speak. For the agenda, the items on the agenda, you have 4 minutes to speak, and the lights will tell you how much time you have left. And when it gets to red, it's your time to please stop talking. So and I will remind you to do that. Let's see, and if there's anything else you'd like to speak on or don't feel comfortable coming to the front, there's blue cards in the back you can write on. Otherwise, you can always send us an email. Like I said, we only have one item tonight, and then we have the public comment period, and I'll go over that part when we get to that period. So with that, we'll start with our first and only item on our agenda, which is a public discussion on the 2026-2030 Capital Improvement Plan by Director Winters.
Good evening.
Good evening.
President Berge, Council. We're here tonight to have our first public discussion on the 26 through 2030 CIP. We'll have an overview of what the CIP is, the project highlights for the public, and then talk about the rest of the year's calendar and the process. Capital budget, the easiest explanation is assets, equipment, infrastructure. So it's not the people that are out there on, plowing the streets or doing the work. It is the infrastructure over $5,000. Why is that important? It's a long-term investment into the city. We love paved roads. We love the trails. We want to be a livable and lovable community. And we want to have safety within our parks, our trails. So that's why we focus on having a well thought out and planned out CIP. It starts with our directors. They prioritize projects from within their department that they need, items that they need to repair. They submit those to the finance director. We talk about what we can afford, what our policies are, what our boundaries are. Then we work with the city manager and deputy city manager on publishing a capital improvement plan that aligns with the strategic goals from our city council. Then that goes to the respective commissions, the Plan Commission, Waterways and Parks, and Transit, to see if that aligns with their respective plans and goals, and they make a recommendation back to City Council. Proposed spending by year, we have $255 million in projects and investments over the proposed CIP. A good average, when there's not the large-scale projects, is around $42 million. When you don't have a fire station or a training center or a proposed $14 million parking garage or an investment in an overpass, when those items aren't in there, it's averaging $42 million. So that's, when we look back further, we're still in line with that with the inflation added on. So we're definitely hitting those targets. Where do we invest? What areas? So LBE is land, building, and equipment. That's a lot of items. That can be your fire station, your rifle replacement, your safety equipment for your emergency services, the equipment that plows your roads, water, sewer, and then I'm going to hop over transportation there, water, sewer, storm. Those are funded by the actual ratepayers within those respective enterprise funds, but we have a large investment in there. We deliver a great level of service, and so there's always projects going on in there, like PFAS or replacing equipment or cleaning up those storm drains. So those are areas that we focus on, and especially with the DNR regulations, it's something we follow to the T. The other investment is transportation. That's a really popular one. We want our roads smooth. We don't want those potholes. We want our sidewalks smooth when we're out for a walk or our children are riding their bikes. So we tend to focus on the areas that are most important with regulations, but also to the public as well. Where does the money come from? So we love to accept donations. We love to have partners. We apply for federal grants. We apply for state grants. You notice it's the smaller pieces of the rainbow kind of on the right there. Federal aid, 4% of that, $255 million. We're taking out a loan for a large sewer project. In this proposed CIP, that would be around $22 million. Beginning balance, that means it's about 3% of that capital improvement plan. That means we have funds from prior years or prior grant periods that is unused. Local vehicle registration fee, we've been really blessed to have that additional $1 million in revenue to work on those projects that have gotten backlogged with accelerated disrepair from 2022, I believe was that year that with all the ice. Plus just the increasing inflation on the cost of repairing those roads. Community enhancement is room tax dollars. And then you notice that large green section, about 28% of that $255 million is covered in those enterprise funds. So water, sewer, storm. We balance those out when we don't have large-scale PFAS $20 million projects, but we definitely try to balance those out so we can keep stable rates to the consumers. Otherwise, the last solution, we're grateful for it, but we're left with is about 53% of promissory notes or borrowing. It's kind of like taking out a loan for that car that you want to purchase. So We can borrow 5% of our equalized value under state statute. Our equalized value is $8.8 billion. So we're able to issue debt or take out a loan to cover the needs of the community. The last item, about 2% of the payment within our capital improvement plan is savings. That's unused tax levy from the prior year of the operating budget. We only budget for the staff that we have and the services that we're going to provide. We keep a very lean budget, but sometimes we have turnover. We have vacant positions, we can't fill those, we couldn't go to that training, or we were blessed and we were able to get a grant for something that we thought we'd have to pay for. So we do have savings, and when we keep our 20% balance on hand, or like a 90-day reserve, after that we can take those savings and roll them in to the next year's CIP, or they can be used in your operating budget for a one-time service mod. They can't be used to fund positions, because it's not a steady source of income, but it does lower the borrowing costs that we have within that next year. So some highlights for the public on some of the projects. Parking, that's one we're going to have a work session on tomorrow night. We do have to address the ramp across the street. That is a $2 to $3 million demolition and about a $14 million replacement, if that's what comes out of that plan. The Hobbs Ice Center, we're just looking at replacing the mechanics and a roof repair. So keeping the ice frozen, doing what we can there, and also repairing the roof. Fairfax Pool, again, is just the repairs on the water slide that's very popular, in addition to retaining walls, some paint, $250,000 investment in flexible housing. We are looking at initiatives internally within land that we already own to kind of come together and have good solutions without investing funds that are allocated in other areas. Fire Station 2 is one of those large projects I was speaking of. That's around an $8 million investment. That doesn't get us to where we would need to be for the full cost of moving the fire station that we're connected to here, station number 2, across the river over by Mayo. We're looking for congressionally directed spending funds or federal dollars, federal tax dollars, to come alongside that so we can actually fund the whole thing. Otherwise, we'll be looking at remodel or a scaled down version, some solution in the future years. Citywide street improvements. We have about a $5 million promissory note investment within our roads program. We keep about a $20 million investment overall in expenditures that relate to our general transportation aid. So it's something we want to keep level in between our streets investments in transportation and investments in the police department that qualify to give us the money back from the state of Wisconsin to plow the roads. Very confusing, but we do like to keep that level, and we're keeping that at a steady $5 million for repairs. Trails are very important to our residents. Every 3 years, we can budget for a higher grant match that we hope to get from the DNR, so you'll see that within our CIP. Railroad safeties on Galloway Street, that's again those federal grant dollars to put in an overpass. The playground replacements, and I'm going to skip down to sport court replacements there, both of those are a standard replacement. So I did have some public comment and question about the donation that came in last year through an estate, and I believe that was Princeton Park, I think
Mount Simon.
Mount Simon, yeah. So there was an estate that was given to the city and awarded in relation to a specific playground, and that is not what's in our capital improvement plan. That was in last year's capital improvement plan. So these are just our standard replacement schedules that Director Berg will prioritize which ones that need to be invested in. So again, it's not an expansion. With the dollars we have and the debt that we're issuing, we're unable to expand our scope within this capital improvement plan. We've just stuck to what we can afford to replace and pushing some things off the edge for 2031 and further. But this is just the repairs to the existing infrastructure. then there is an investment in the Owen Park band shell as well. Other items of note, Chippewa River crossing for the water utility. We have another water pipe scheduled for redundancy purposes with all of our growth closer to the Riverview Park area. We've had the other one broken twice in the last 90 years, so it's just, again, with all that growth in that almost that century that we're expanding that redundancy. Otherwise, water, sewer, storm, we always are looking to invest in replacing the water mains, replacing the hydrants, all of those items in relation to extension, expansion. You'll notice that we've been around the community this last year, upgrading our storm improvement areas, our storm sewer areas, clearing out the trees, the brushes. So again, that's the improvement area there as well. Last item of note, public transit safety training facility driving track. It looks like a new item. It's kind of spun off of our emergency services training facility, but it's a great place for our bus drivers to earn their driving hours with their CDL, or our snowplow drivers, or our police officers to practice their driving techniques, or even pulling somebody over, or the fire department to just get comfortable with that truck. So just utilizing space we already own and some grant funding to centralize that location for the city. And tax increment district projects. So we love to use the tax increment districts to expand our growth and our net new construction. That continues our tax levy, and it also continues with the growth to have people share in that increased tax levy. So TID number 12 is down on Water Street. We're going to do some repairs there with a retaining wall and a pipe. We finally will have enough funds to direct towards that project. TID 17, multimodal overpass, that's down on the southern part of the city of Eau Claire, one of our newer TID districts, and that's kind of connectivity and trail, connecting the south up towards the mall area, I guess would be your best description. Library is going to use their fund balance for some of their just standard equipment replacement, and RDA has requested $1 million for land acquisition. So the spirit, I guess, of the CIP this year was kind of invest in what we have. We're not expanding. We're not building those new fire stations. We're not. We've expanded a couple of vehicles, but again, just kind of looking at what we're doing and trying to continue spreading our operations around so we can maintain what we're doing, and then investing in the capital areas that we know the public loves and that we can afford to invest in. So with that, tomorrow we do have work session 3 scheduled. If you're, that's definitely, that's after parking and trash. So we will be discussing the CIP again. June 13th, if the council members, even for those of you that are new, if you want help with any of the amendments and you'd like them to be published for the public, definitely want to get if you can work with me on that by Friday. I'll help you with the language. We'll talk about the funding sources. You can't use water utility, for example, to pay for maybe a park. So we want to, I can help you maneuver that, or you're more than welcome to give any amendments on the floor at the end of the month on June 24th. Any amendments that I receive by June 13th, I will publish for the public, and we can talk about them on June 23rd. So those will be available on the website for a second public discussion. And then on June 24th, we will have an action item for council to vote on adoption of the CIP. Just a reminder, you can view that on our website. There's a PDF version and an interactive version as well. And then I am all set.
Thank you for that overview. Any questions for Director Winters? Okay, Councilmember Mboga.
Thank you, Council President.
Stuck in your-
Thank you, Director White. Winter, I'm
Winter.
sorry. So my question for my understanding and for everybody who's watching this one, can you speak a little bit about the settlement? I think you have talk about it again? The settlement from PFAS, when we got, I think, like $90 million?
Sure. We're scheduled to receive a full a settlement on that. I have received about 1.6 or 1.06 million. We're going to look through the entire, I think it's 500 to 700 pages of the class action lawsuit. Work with the PSC. Our full rate case is starting in July, and then work with our auditors as well. So we kind of have a lot of governing bodies to work through on how we should best spend that. There are thoughts. There's issues in, I believe, some municipalities in Minnesota that might have some problems with how they were using it. So we want to be proactive and make sure we're applying it where we should and where and have money for future risk as well. So that hasn't been I have my accounting manager and my lead accountant reviewing it, but that isn't an item that's complete yet. But we will bring that back. That would not help with the 2026 CIP though at this time. I wouldn't expect that yet. Yep.
I have a quick question because I don't see the $1 million for the RDA proposal,
Yes.
would that dovetail into affordable housing? Do you know?
It could. I think Director White, I don't know if he's here or not. Yes, he is here. He has an area in mind, so that's probably best to discuss with him as well.
Thank you.
We
We
were
would like to-
wondering that ourselves.
Oh.
We're not sure what that is. I think it's something with the HVAC system.
If we shut the door, is it back there? Is that helpful? No? I guess I hear it. It just doesn't bother me, but sorry.
No, absolutely.
Just
Thank you,
talk
council
loud.
members. The initial project put in there was for a project that we knew was adjacent to the Cannery District and we knew was coming up for sale probably within the next couple, 3 years. So wanted to originally get it back in the CIP, just back in the CIP. It had been there in the past and we were bringing it back forward. However, with the discuss from past couple of work sessions and strong interest in directing things related to affordable housing, I've been working with the Housing Division and our staff to look at how we could take that and actually convert it into very much directed to an affordable housing project that can be defined within RDA areas of focus. The RDA is actually talking about new areas and expanded areas, and we'll be presenting a new map to the board on Wednesday of next week. That is significantly be the largest focus area the city has ever taken on as far as the RDA and it means to support specifically affordable housing with any funding that might be directed to the RDA. So we can definitely make that have an affordable housing focus to it. And council would have direct input on that once the new focus districts come forward for council approval before the RDA can actually act on them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Director White.
Yes.
Okay. No other questions from council, so we'll open up the public hearing. Yeah, I'll take. Thank you. Okay. So we have one person on our agenda for the agenda item for the CIP, and that's Andrew. Yep, you can come on. Down. Sorry.
Do this every day.
Yeah. Just state your name and.
Yeah, council members, good evening. My name is Andrew Nisa. I'm currently serving as the president of Northside Hill Neighborhood Association, and I'm here tonight on behalf of our steering committee and the neighborhood as a whole. So earlier today, I emailed you our official comment on the CIP, and I'm here tonight to kind of underscore one particular item, and that is Mount Simon. Recently, the Parks Department asked our opinion on what to do with the Jane Honadell donation, and when we put it to a vote, residents selected playground equipment replacement and the construction of a pavilion near there. But in third place were issues concerning pedestrian access to the park, because right now residents, they need to walk along Addison Avenue down the park, and since it's a kind of a blind curve that cars use, it was identified as a safety issue in our 2023 neighborhood plan. And there was not enough money in the $300,000 donation to cover this as well. But we thought if we're having a plan for a revamped Upper Mount Simon anyway, it would make sense to consider this as an issue. I think the Parks Department estimated it was like $300,000 just to redo Addison. So the current idea is to build a staircase connecting Upper and Lower Mount Simon. So this would do a few things. It would address the pedestrian safety access issues. It would decrease the walking distance between Upper and Lower Mount Simon. And it would also just unify the park and kind of enhance it as a whole. So imagine, you know, your family, you're going to the new playground, your mom sitting in the new pavilion, but you have some older kids who want to go down to the lower part of the park and they want to play some volleyball or throw some disc golf. This would be much more convenient and safe to do that as an option. So the Neighborhood Association is requesting that council allocate some money to investigate this, to see if it's feasible, and if it is, to set aside some money to build it in the coming years. And we would be willing to, you know, fundraise ourselves as well through GoFundMe or corporate giving programs or foundations. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for considering our neighborhood in the many different needs of this budget process.
Thanks, Andrew. All right. That was only one signed up, but anyone in council chambers like to speak on the CIP?
I just have a question. If I want to talk about parking, would it be now? Because I signed up for later.
Is it about the parking ramp?
It's about paid parking downtown.
I would do it later. Good question. Is that okay?
Oh,
Yeah, okay. All right, any other, or anyone would like to speak on anything on the CIP? So the budget for all the things of our city. Okay, not seeing anyone. So then we'll move on to our public comment period. And it sounds, and we do have a couple people signed up for that. So I'll just go over the process. So this time is for those who live or own a place of business in the city of Eau Claire to speak on citywide issues. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. You can speak only once. Once the red light flashes, same thing. Please finish up your remarks. Please do not comment on any previous agenda items. Also, this time is not for personal complaints of city personnel, elected officials, or any person affiliated with the city. Also, which is different about this part, is council is not allowed to ask questions or comment during this time because these things that are being brought up are not noticed on our agenda. And then the time will last for 20 minutes. So with that, instructions, looks like Deb is first. So Deb Marshall.
Hello again.
Hello, good evening.
Hi. I'm Deb Marshall. I live at 315 Riverfront Terrace, and for the last 15 years, I've been before this council for a few times on the subject of noise in the Galloway Street parking ramp, and have personally interacted with many of you on this. I'm here tonight partly because the capital improvement budget is up and being considered, and I think the solution that was really needed is going to require some capital budgeting to meet the number 2 objective of safe and functional infrastructure. So a little progress was made by reducing some of the noise issues, but unfortunately has not worked nearly well as we hoped. Closing off the 4th level and putting speed bumps in sounded like good ideas to start with, but many of the speed bumps have come off and people are back with a vengeance. So especially motorcycles have been really a problem. So, and at night with the speed bumps, they can get around those bumps, no problem. The noise is back with a vengeance, bordering on being retaliatory, in our opinion, and I'm calling it kind of like noise harassment. By the time police are able to reply to our calls, the perpetrators have already exited the building, and they're gone. I got a text message from Deb and Tom Lockhart, who live right next to the ramp, on Thursday, June 5th at 9 o'clock, and I quote, "It is insane over here tonight. Ramp noise is back to full bore. Trucks and cycles are tearing around. Kids are lighting firecracker-type whistles. And we've had a homeless woman camped on the bench all day who just left a large pile of trash strewn all over the sidewalk when she took off. Now loud truck noise has just set off someone's car alarm. Lots of kids yelling back and forth, someone with a booming bass, which is really annoying. Music in the park is done for the night. That's not a problem. It's the ramp. So all we want is a quiet neighborhood, or a quiet night on the balcony. So we'd like to invite all of you to come over on a Thursday night from 7 to 9. And we'll host you to really learn what it's all about. So it's painfully apparent to me and all of us who live near the ramp that the only real solution is going to be controlled gate entrance, that people are going in and parking for the reason that they're there. So the capital budget and the improvement plan are statements of priorities, and we think that should be included. I will request another meeting with the people that we've talked with before about what seems to be the hesitancy in looking at a gated solution to the parking ramp. So I chair the Downtown Neighborhood Association. We met on June 3rd and prepared a statement, which is on the back. I sent that to several people. So unfortunately, I think the system that we have right now is perfectly designed to get the results that we have, and the system's got to change to make that work. And we really want to work with you to make sure that the things that are a problem will be addressed in a way. But it's got to be done in the capital budgeting, I think, and so we'd really like to be a part of that process.
Okay, thanks, Deb. Thank you for coming down. Okay, then we have Erin Klaus.
Good
Hi,
evening.
good evening.
My name is Erin Klaus, and I'm here speaking on behalf of myself as a South Barstow business owner and as well as the executive director of Downtown Eau Claire Incorporated. I've been parts of many conversations about downtown parking over the years, including my time as chair of the South Barstow bid in 2023, which is the year that the paid parking discussions really began to take form. At that time, both DECI and the Business Improvement Districts came together in opposition of moving forward with paid parking initiative. This wasn't out of resistance for the idea itself, but because we simply didn't have answers to what we need, to questions we needed to support it responsibly. And some of the questions that we asked at that time were, what parking app will be used? Will physical pay kiosks be installed? And if so, what are the locations? How many? Will those kiosks accept cash? Who will manage and enforce the system and parking downtown? What are the enforcement hours and staffing levels? And where will the revenue from paid parking go? Some of these have preliminary answers that have been provided, but mostly these questions remain fundamentally to make sure that we have a successful implementation of paid parking system. From those conversations, a focused downtown parking study was launched. This was a move that we fully supported. DECI actually worked closely with the city to help gather feedback from businesses, residents, employees, visitors of downtown. And the result was valuable and a comprehensive look on how parking is currently used in downtown, but also how it is perceived downtown. When John Forrester presented his findings, he did recommend that implementing paid parking to help manage turnover in high-demand areas would be beneficial. But critically, he also emphasized that the city must have a dedicated point person and department responsible for overseeing all aspects of parking, a recommendation that, to our concern, is missing from the current recommendation that you'll probably hear tomorrow. If we only act on pieces of the recommendation that would generate revenue while ignoring the essential structural elements like staffing, infrastructure, and communication, then we're setting ourselves up for failure along with the rest of downtown. That failure is going to be felt first by the small businesses who are the backbone of downtown Eau Claire. The majority of those businesses do not support this change in parking. They already are navigating ongoing economic pressures without a clear, centralized place to direct questions or frustrations about paid parking. It will be our business owners and their employees who end up absorbing the burden, answering questions at the counter, fielding complaints, and potentially losing customers. I'm going to skip this part, but DECI is going to have the same situation. We're already seeing an increase in inquiries about situations that are not being answered directly by City Hall. On top of these concerns, I'd like to stress the timing of the proposed implementation. Rolling it out in January of 2026, the slowest time of year in downtown and a financially difficult time for many of our small businesses, will create an additional strain on an already vulnerable population. Darn it. I have some recommendations I guess I'd like to share with you.
You could maybe give it to someone else to read.
I don't know that they're his recommendations.
Oh.
Okay, I'll send it later. I thought I had 4 minutes to talk in the CIP. And so,
Oh, sorry.
oh,
Well, you can email. It's So. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak? Okay. Just want to state your name and address, please.
Dave Strobel, property owner at 130 South Barstow Street, member of the South Barstow Business Improvement District, the executive committee, former council person, and there's no way I talk as fast as Aaron, so this is going to be interesting. Anyway, first of all, I wanted to say I'm grateful that the city agreed to do a parking study. Remember last time this came through? It was a big issue, and we got most of our questions in that parking study, so a lot of that was answered. I do think that, yeah, you need to not embrace some of the parking study, you need to embrace all of the parking study. Most important things, enforcement. Keeping the funds downtown and having open books. Having other places to put these displaced parkers, like a ramp. So I'd say keep that in the CIP, let's get that thing done. If you force them off the street, where are you going to force them to? And most importantly, having one office with all the information needed to manage all this. And I had emailed staff in February, and a couple of the answers I got, I wanted to know if they hired anybody to enforce parking, and then how long are they enforcing it for? He said, they did hire somebody, he doesn't know their schedule. Also, I asked if the TIF on the Galloway ramp, if some of the parking revenue there is going to pay for it and how much. I don't know, I have to talk to finance. What about tracking downtown citation revenue? I referred that to neighborhood services. How much for expenses to enforce downtown parking? Again, referred to neighborhood services. Never heard back from neighborhood services. Very important to have one office with all that information so it's open to the rest of us. I don't know how much left. The ramps are meant to be, the revenue from the ramps are not meant to pay for the ramps. The revenue from the ramps are meant to pay for maintenance, awareness, enforcement, those types of things. Am I almost over? Wow. Okay, one more thing then, the last thing. The one thing I think is missing here, same thing was missing the last time. This didn't come back to the decision makers, the South Barstow bid, the North Barstow bid, and DECI, to ask for a letter of our agreement on this or some type of support for this, a support letter. That didn't happen yet. So I think it's important to do that when it comes to council. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Dave. Anyone else in council chambers like to speak during the public comment period? So this can be on anything. Okay, not seeing anyone. All right. Okay, well then we'll close the public comment period. We do have a work session, which is before adjournment. Is that usually how it's supposed to work? I think. Do I adjourn first? I feel like Assistant City Attorney? Yes. Okay. So I will adjourn our public hearing, and then we will move into the work session. We can have 5 minutes before break. But for now, the public hearing is adjourned. So thanks, everyone. Oh, yeah, I thought you need. Well, shoot. I feel like Aaron left. He's always fine. She want to give us like her the other. For the comments tonight. Oh, okay.
Greg, nice to meet you. My name is Larry.
I'm just kidding. And do you know like immediacy? Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, nice to meet you. So you must be new.
We met at the Rice Lake. I think it was at the Rice Lake that you drove to when I was a brand. Yeah, I was I have my cell phone. Just give me a heads up.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, this is the first thing. Because Teresa's been here and me. Then you know everybody? You know George? You know.
Oh, wait. You guys aren't talking. I know, and you're on air too, so now there's evidence. Okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, thanks. All right. Okay, should we get started?
I'm just going to kick
Sure.
this off. It's a work session, and so this a new group called Housing Our Neighbors Planning Collaborative, though it didn't get that name until more recently, but they've been meeting since. Well, they can tell you more about the history of it, but they basically wanted that it's a cross-sector, cross-organization group. I'm really just so grateful that they're taking this on, and they're here to share the progress that they've made and the open questions and how the city and the county and other partners might collaborate. So I'm going to turn this over to the two Andys. Thank you.
Great.
Work sessions are a little more informal, so you can use first names if you like. Or...
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Angie Weideman. I'm the Human Services Director from Eau Claire County. And Angie, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Angie Stokes. I'm the Assistant Director.
We try to make it easy. We're the Angies. And glad to be here this evening. Thank you for your time. As the city manager mentioned, this initiative has been going for about 9 months now. So I've been in my role as the Human Services Director for about 2 years in Eau Claire County. And when I started in the role, I was kind of at the table in a lot of different meetings about housing. And what we saw as a community is the number of people who are unhoused growing. So when we had an opening for our deputy director, we now call that an assistant director. When we had that opening, we knew that we were going to restructure our organization, which we have 273 individuals who work in human services that do a lot of work around economic support, mental health, AODA, recovery. And so all of those 273 people roll up to me, and we've protected Angie's time to work strictly on housing and coordinating housing efforts with partners throughout Eau Claire, the city, and the county. What we've done since Angie started last August is we have been doing a lot of research. We've traveled to Milwaukee, Green Bay, and La Crosse to look at the efforts and initiatives that have been happening in those communities. Milwaukee uses a housing first model, which basically says get people into housing, then provide them with services to help them stay housed. So we in Human Services offer many of the services, as well as our community partners, that help people stay housed. It is important to have that service aspect, otherwise you will see people with a lot of evictions, which is, we want to avoid that. We also just recently went to La Crosse, and La Crosse has brought their city and county together to be the backbone of all the housing initiatives happening there. They've been at it for about 16 months. They also looked at Milwaukee's Housing First model. And then what we did is back in December, we actually brought Jim Matthey from Milwaukee here. And he'd been here before at the Pablo Center showing the film that many of you probably saw. So we do have a partnership, or we are trying to collaborate with Jim just to learn more about the success that they've had in housing people in Milwaukee. And I used to live in Milwaukee. There were many more people unhoused in Milwaukee 10 years ago than there are today. They have had a lot of success in getting people housed and keeping people housed. Our efforts have really been a collaboration between the Chamber, the City County Health Department, and the Department of Human Services coming together to help plan. We also have the county administrator and the city manager who've come in, as well as Jonah and Julian Emerson from Altoona. So what we're doing right now is planning towards a community plan that is really, we've gotten information from city council, county board, city department heads, county department heads, the community, and people with lived experience. And I say living and lived experience because we currently have many people who are unhoused who are a part of our planning team as well. I am going to stop there because Angie's got a wonderful PowerPoint, and this is the work she does every day. I am kind of the sidekick. So she is going to give you much more detailed information about what has happened from August of last year until today.
Thanks. Is that magically popping up, Stephanie? Oh, yeah, great, right there.
Oh,
That was
look at
magic.
that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, tell me what. Okay, thanks.
And if Angie, is it okay if we wait till the end for questions? Just
Sure.
to, okay. Do that
Sure.
then. So write down any questions anyone has.
So thanks for having us. Angie gave a really good overview. I'm going to try to provide some details that go along with what Angie said. Our goals for our presentation are to share our current conditions. We've spent a lot of time talking to folks and trying to figure out where we are at, what is the scope of our work, to help us provide solutions that are going to meet our needs. Provide a history of how we got to this point. By we, I mean the Planning Collaborative, and then provide what our next steps are moving forward. So current conditions. In 2024, the City County Health, as part of their work, give a health assessment of the top 5 issues. One of those was lack of safe or affordable housing. So it's something that, as I talk, you'll notice it comes up in almost every assessment that we're giving out in the community. In Eau Claire, what we know is that 36% of households in the county cannot afford basic expenses. That comes out of the Alice report. Those are working individuals. Basic expenses include rent, childcare, food, utilities. People need to earn at least $20 per hour for a basic 2-bedroom apartment. In Eau Claire, our biggest area that folks are employed in is retail. Retail is not the most lucrative field to be employed in. City of Eau Claire has a vacancy rate of 3.7. This is up from, I think it's 1.25. Healthy vacancy rates, depending on what you're reading, 5 to 7, 7 to 8. So we have a lack of actual, people can't afford the housing that we have, and we don't have enough housing. We've tried to spend a lot of time looking at our data, so figuring out how many folks are currently unhoused. This is a little tricky because nobody keeps track of that all in one place. We're working on coming up with a system to be able to do that. So we've been looking at point-in-time counts. Point-in-time counts happen twice a year, once in January, once in July. Folks volunteer to sign up to literally go out and count the folks that are unhoused. In July of 2024, for the first time, we saw an increase of families with children that were unhoused. January, our numbers went down. We happened to have a point-in-time count on the coldest night of the year where we increased shelter beds and did some other things. So we think that number is not accurate. We look at coordinated entry. Coordinated entry is a way that variety of community members get information, then they can prioritize folks based on who needs what, the most immediate. It's a way to have a list that changes based on need. I think our last coordinated entry data that I looked at the end of March was 256 individuals. We look at our shelter data, school district. Last time I talked to Danny, I believe they were at 266 of students in the Eau Claire School District who self-report that they're homeless. And then we've been talking with law enforcement. who's telling us that the numbers are increasing. So although we lack a comprehensive data picture, what we know is that numbers of those that are homeless in Eau Claire are increasing. This is important because I'm going to talk about in a minute how many services we have in Eau Claire. The other thing we were able to do in conjunction with folks that work in the county is looked at familiar faces. So we looked at our folks that are coming into our jails. So from 2018 to 2023, we had over 50,000 arrests of over 17,000 different folks. I was given the data, I didn't pull it. We focused on the 40 people with the highest arrest rates. If we look at those from various points, so if we look at arrest centered, so just by looking at the arrests, 11% of folks that were arrested were unhoused at the time of arrest. So of the 50,000 plus arrests, 11% were unhoused. If we just look at our top 40 individuals, 39% of those were unhoused. So that's a 3-time bigger increase. If we look at our people, so if we just look at the 17,000 plus folks, 6% of all the people were unhoused for at least one arrest. If we look at our top 40, it's 78% were unhoused for at least one of their arrests. If we then look at those folks that had Department of Human Services, it does not mean that we're the only people that provide services, but this is the data that we have access to. 100% of our top 40 individuals had a history of prior arrest before enrolling in DHS programming. What we were able to tease out looking at our data is that 55% of these individuals decreased their arrest rates while they were enrolled in DHS programming. So we know that folks having services helps.
Makes sense.
Dr. Leah Olson McBride, she works at UW Eau Claire. She's a fantastic human and great to work with. She did some local data for Western Dairyland. She picked folks locally that are unhoused. She had a small sample size. What she did is looked at how much does it cost us to have folks in jail. So she, I'm not gonna remember the exact, I think she had 18 folks in her sample size. But when she looked at those, they had between 0 and 251 nights in jail. The cost range for that was between nothing and $28,000. If we look at the averages, the average cost is about $7,400 per person. The legal system involving, so going to court, public defenders, filings, if we look at that, the average is, the average number of people that responded were over 3 people, and then the average cost was over $1,000. Housed at Sojourner, it's about $40 a night to be at Sojourner, which was about $3,660 per person. So for the average cost locally of folks that are unhoused in Eau Claire is over $12,000. There's some data missing from this. She tried to get some medical data from folks, so if they were willing to self-disclose. When they went to the ER, one person said that they had costs of $67,000, another one said $75,000, and another one said $26,000. So if you add those together, that $12,000 plus with $6,000, $7,000, you're looking at close to $20,000 a person. That's how much it costs our community. I can house people for less than $20,000. So how we got here, as Angie said, in August, they hired a new assistant director, that was me. And my job is to try to bring folks together for some community solutions. What that does is, we had a director and an assistant director, but a lot of work shifted to Angie's plate. So it wasn't nothing for the county to decide to do that. In September, we did not bring this up. 2 community groups brought Beyond the Bridge to Eau Claire. It created some interest from folks in how we can come together to create a more systemic plan for Eau Claire. In October, City County Health, the Department of Human Services, and the Chamber decided to come together to try to lead a collaborative effort. What's really important about this is it's not meant to be a new effort. We've spent a lot of time looking at what other folks have done before this. So there was a Ending Homelessness Committee. I met with the woman that was leading that multiple times. We gathered all of their meeting minutes. We met with Jonah, we've met, I mean, frankly, if you email me, I'll meet with you. So we've met with lots and lots of folks to see what the efforts have been in Eau Claire, to see what we can build off of. And then in December, as Angie said, we brought Jim Matthey in from Milwaukee County just to talk about his experience. So they have a track record that's known nationally. They've been able to decrease their numbers of folks that are unhoused. We'll talk about that in a minute. What we did is brought leaders together from Eau Claire during the lunch hour. So we had business owners, we had City Council, Emily was there, City Council President Stephanie was there, UNB Eau Claire, CBTC. And then we offered small group sessions. So we met with Jessica from City Housing Authority, Georgia from the County Housing Authority to talk about, with Jim, how did you get housing built? We met with law enforcement. How did you partner with your local police department, with your local sheriffs, with your DAs, with your public defenders? We had another meeting with the Dairyland Housing Coalition and members of Jonah. We had one more meeting that I'm not remembering. We met with I wasn't at that meeting. We met with the chamber executive team. So we had a large group meeting just to tell folks what we're trying to do, provide information. Then we had smaller groups, again, to work on getting folks together. Our goals for this was, again, to create a shared understanding of what Eau Claire's current reality is to the best of our ability, create a foundation for collaboration, sustainability, and efficiency. We have a lot of services in Eau Claire. We want to make sure that we're using local dollars efficiently and impactfully. And then commit to working together in a new way with a shared strategy. So again, lots of people have been doing a lot of work for a long time. How can we come together and make our work collaborative? This is the data from Milwaukee County, as Angie indicated. They use a housing first model, which means it's really low barrier. You don't have to be sober. You don't have to have a clean bill of mental health. You don't have to be employed. They commit to finding folks housing, and then they provide services. Not everybody takes services right away. Sometimes it takes folks a while. Angie tells a story that Jim talks about. How long was the gentleman unhoused for?
25 years.
25 years. And he'd been approached, do you need services? Do you need services? Do you need services? No, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. Do you want housing? Absolutely, I'll take housing. And then he was able to step into services once he had some basic needs met. They work collaboratively with the county, law enforcement, service providers, the city, local businesses. The key that Jim talked about is having clear leadership so that you could hold folks accountable. And then the other key that he talks about a lot is an outreach team. This is a common theme that we have heard from Green Bay, from La Crosse, that goes out and meets folks where they're at. So you physically and emotionally meet people where they're at. You use that to gather data, but then also to figure out trends. So why are we seeing potentially an uptick in our homelessness numbers? What is the uptick? Is it in youth? Is it in families? And then we can better plan to meet our community's needs. So their success rate, they had a 46% drop in overall homeless population in 5 years. They had a 91% drop, almost 92% in unsheltered street homelessness in 5 years, and then a 65% reduction of folks that are that sheltered chronic homelessness. So they had really good results. They have seen a little uptake about a year ago. I haven't got their data from 2024 to be able to share that. They have been super responsive in answering questions. Literally, I just email and then within the week some magical answer comes. It's been really helpful and we're really grateful for that. The other thing that we noticed when we were talking to folks is Eau Claire has a lot of services. So we have services for mental health, we have a daytime shelter, we have an overnight shelter, we offer help with food, we have independent living skills, employment skills, health insurance support, medication management, affordable housing. So Eau Claire has a lot of services, which is a great thing to have. So that's when we were pulling things together, that's what we noticed. Since that meeting in December, we did get a name. I was hesitant, I'll take ownership for this, hesitant to have a name because folks didn't want to have just like another thing. And we were trying to say, this is a collaborative. It's not a group going off on their own and trying to invent something new. So we now have a name. Housing Our Neighbors Planning Collaborative. We meet bi-weekly on Monday mornings. We're working to determine more accurate numbers of need in Eau Claire still. We're trying to understand all the housing options and how to access them. So we have lists of workforce housing, supportive housing, permanent housing. We're trying to tease all of that out. We continue to meet with our community partners. I'll talk a little bit about this work to build understanding of what's happening and to really lean into collaboration. We've reviewed, as I said, previous work, and then we've done a lot of presentations. So we presented to Clear Vision Eau Claire, we presented to the Eau Claire Health Alliance, Eau Claire County Board, City County Health Department Board, the department heads for the city. So we're just trying to let everybody know what we're trying to do. Another thing that has really been important to us from the beginning is that we've had folks with lived experience. I can give some examples of why this has been, really, I think, different. Our work, I think, is different than has been done in other places. Milwaukee said we did this too late. We should have included people right away. So we started to include people right away. I did not hear a lot about a lived experience in La Crosse when you were there, so I'm really proud of us for doing this. You get a firsthand experience of what people are going through. So we pulled service providers together. So we looked at all of the service providers in Eau Claire that provided services specifically to folks that are unhoused. We pulled them together. We had 3 different meetings. Our first meeting, we did a SOAR analysis. So what are our strengths? What are our opportunities? What are our aspirations? What are our results? And these were the 10 themes from there, that we need participation from multiple different sectors. We need housing subsidies. I've been talking with Georgia and Jessica. The list for folks that get vouchers, you can be on the list for years. Same thing with permanent supportive housing. Also that funding, we can't continue to rely just on federal funding. We need to do something locally so that that is protected money. We need flexible case management. So we have some case management where folks are going out and meeting maybe monthly with folks, but the level of need that people have, we need that case management to be more intensive. We need additional supportive housing developments. We need more coordinated outreach so that we can have that good data and really build trusting relationships with folks ahead of time. We need to educate the public on what our initiatives are. We need leadership and accountability, continue to have people with lived experience involved, and then open communication and collaboration between our providers. So how do we create a collaboration where we're not, working in isolation of trying to get funding together and meeting people's needs? Because there's lots of niches, and if we could pull those together, we really could help people more. We did a theory of change activity. The themes that were identified at our second meeting is we need to prevent people from becoming unhoused. We can't manage the folks that are currently unhoused. We need to turn off the faucet and keep people in their house. We need to enhance supportive services and collaboration, build and strengthen extensive outreach services, and then again, increase affordable housing. There's a theme here. We had this was maybe my favorite event that I've done since I started. We were approached by the La Follette School of Public Affairs out of UW-Madison, and she said, so I heard you're doing some things with homelessness. Would you like to have community conversations? And so I said, well, talk to me more about that. And she said what her research involves is having civil dialogue, so pulling people together to really talk about what our local issues are and how can we solve them together. So with help from Stephanie, we sent out communication to about 20,000 people in Eau Claire. They had the option to sign up to come to an event. It was a beautiful Saturday for 5 hours, and we had 30 folks sign up or show up for that. Or they could provide feedback via a survey. So that meeting was meant to bring people together. She did some, not hand-picking, she looked at different demographics. So we had some students, we had some older folks, we had folks that had lived in Eau Claire for a long time, that had not lived in Eau Claire for a long time. We had some single folks, some families, business folks, folks employed in the private sector. So it was a good mix. And then we had some folks with lived experience. They were supposed to comment on how they wanted how they wanted communication to happen. So how they wanted to get information and then give information, and rather than, we got a little off track, and they decided to give 10 suggestions for the work moving forward. So these were the 10 suggestions, is that we need education. Folks make a lot of assumptions about what it means to be unhoused. So we need to help tell people's stories so that they recognize that you can be employed and be unhoused. We need community engagement. So how do we work with lots of different folks in Eau Claire to make people see that this is a problem that we can all work to solve? Resources were on there. It's challenging right now if you're trying to get services. You have to apply for, there's 3 different voucher programs in Eau Claire. There's another different housing program. There's lots of different ways that you can get services, but it's not streamlined. So how do we streamline that? How do we bring the resources out to where the people are rather than expecting the people to come to the resources? We need to bring resources to people. We need sustainable and consistent funding. We need to look at what other communities are doing. People need basic necessities, and those services should be provided early. So rather than waiting until there's a crisis, how do we build a system that has an early warning system and we're helping people early? We need, again, folks with lived experience. We need collaboration, a building of trust in the community. We need some policies and system change, and then we need to think about how to meet people's needs instead of making being homeless a criminal activity. So we've done a lot of work mapping resources. Catherine Kerwin, who works for City County Health, she's the fellow, has spent an exorbitant amount of time on this, and it's fantastic. I've watched her get 2 standing ovations when she shows what the work that she's done and where resources are. This is eventually going to go on a website that the goal is for this to be used by service providers to figure out, like, if I have a person, I need a bed, here's where they could go. If they need clothing, here's where they could go. So we've been working on this. Our next steps, Angie alluded to that we visited Milwaukee. We talked to folks in Green Bay. I was over at a conference listening to their mayor and their city or their county administrator talk about their plan coming together. And then we were just in La Crosse all day on Friday talking to them. We'd had a meeting with them beforehand. But we're looking to build a community plan. So we have pulled a lot of information together, and we're going to take that information and build it out into a community plan. It will be a public-facing document. It will hopefully be a roadmap. It allows for transparency, accountability, and responsibility, deeply rooted in collaboration, and a living document. So it's not something to create and put on a shelf. It's something to utilize and potentially change as needed. The vision for our work is to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. That's what we're doing. To do that, we need an effective response system. So we need a way that the system, we're looking at building a different system so that it can identify people quickly and connect them to resources that they need. It aligns to the community, again, to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. So again, we want to get folks housed and keep them housed. The key to keeping folks housed is to have services.
Could I just say one thing too? I've been at a lot of meetings about housing and the unhoused population, and I've seen each and every one of you at those meetings. I've seen Clara at every single meeting. And so I just want to say thank you for your leadership. I know you've invested a lot of time and money in housing efforts, in Sojourners, in the Day Resource Center, the Street Ambassador Program, and I just want to say thank you for all the efforts. All of those efforts should go hand in hand in a parallel process with the work that we are hoping to do, and especially thank you to your city manager, Hirsch, who has been very active in the meetings and planning as well. So we appreciate all of the efforts that have been put in thus far.
Great, thanks. Looks like there are questions, so I'll start with Nate.
Well, thank you, Chair.
And maybe we'll just go around.
President Berge.
Yep.
So I wonder, and I don't think there is an answer, if Eau Claire is doing better than expected or worse than expected. Because if we're doing really worse than expected as far as the unhoused, then little efforts can really get us a long way to catching up to where the average is. But if we're already doing better, then we've got a lot to do to excel. Based on visiting places like Green Bay or Milwaukee, do you get a sense, or maybe there are numbers for this, it's like for a city of 70,000 people that's not a suburb in the upper Midwest, does Eau Claire have less unhoused or more unhoused than expected?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if there's an expected number of unhoused because the goal.
Angie, do you want to speak in the
I'm so
microphone?
sorry.
People at home, I'm sure.
sorry.
Thank you. No, you're fine.
I don't know if there's an expected number. What the goal is functional zero, which means you would want to have little to none. You're going to always have a little bit in your system. What I would tell you Eau Claire is ahead of is that, you know, at the table on Monday morning, you have the city, the county, the city county health, the chamber, like that's not happening all over. So I think those are strengths. We have a lot of services. The fact that we have lived experience, folks with lived experience, that maybe puts us ahead. But we're listening, I mean, in La Crosse and Milwaukee, they're housing people at a higher rate than we are. So they're also a little farther ahead in planning than we are.
That's what I was going to say. The ARPA dollar, lots of these communities used their ARPA dollars specifically for housing, hiring planners to coordinate. And so the thing that I'd say we're a little behind on is the planning effort and actually getting people housed. Like we have not housed one person yet through this initiative. And that is going to take some work, not only with the community partners that offer services, but also with landlords and people who actually have housing.
Great, thanks. Emily, and you?
Thanks. I just want to say thank you so much. This is just making me so happy. What can we do to support this work?
Go ahead. You first. It's your day job.
So the biggest thing I would say to support is maybe look at the La Crosse model where they have, because it's really something to listen to how their city and county have come together and utilize their strengths of each. So I guess that would be my first piece of advice. And then I guess my second piece is I spend a lot of time at housing meetings. So, and I've asked a lot of questions about, you know, who's focusing on what groups. And it seems like the missing focus is our 40% that make less than $40,000. So I guess what I would say is when we're planning, if we can think about that population specifically, I think there's folks that will advocate for the population, but I'm not sure that that group as a whole is going to come in front of city council and say, you know, we need some help. So I guess that would be something I would lean into. And then the third thing I think is just thinking about how to be purposeful in collaboration. So if you're planning on giving money to something, like how can the county come alongside and support that, maybe through services or, you know, working with Jonah and working with, I just got on Hawk, like how can we make all of those things work together? So I would be thinking about that.
Yeah, I was going to say something just very similar. As we were in La Crosse, I actually looked at Angie and I'm like, we've got to get Stephanie, Dave, and planning from the city of Eau Claire to come down to Eau Claire with us. To La Crosse with us. It was really fascinating to see the city and county working together and just telling their story of how they started, what they did. They hired one position at the city and one position at the county to help things start moving. And they're the backbone. They are the backbone of it, and it has really made a difference there.
And I think the important thing too is they're not going to solve all the problems. They're just providing the leadership and the vision. I think his name is Jim. He was hired through the county, and he actually has no history in county work. He's a businessman who's basically project managing. And he talks about a woman who they need more permanent supportive housing, but at a more acute level. And she has been talking about for a long time opening up some housing for folks. Well, they just purchased a couple different duplexes for scattered housing, and the city and county were able to come alongside her and provide some funding and services. But they weren't the solution to the problem. She was, but they just figured out how to work together.
And the city of La Crosse hired an individual named Ryan who was just fantastic. He's been in his role for 4 years, and you can tell when you have the right person with the right skill set that can develop relationships with the unhoused population, it really does make a difference.
And the community, community.
Okay, great, thanks. Claire, do you have a question? I'm just going to go around, but you, that right now? Okay.
Other than, again, thank you so much. I was so excited to see this on our work session agenda. I think you guys know I'm just super excited, and again, like Emily said, eager to help, and really, really appreciate what you're doing.
Charlie, do you have anything to?
No question, but yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's very insightful, very helpful, and I think very motivating as well.
Aaron gave a thumbs up for those listening at home. Larry, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, the Angies, for your presentations. I really appreciate what you guys, there's so many information which I did not know that 58,000 arrests were met in Eau Claire last year. Do we have a space for 50,000 people?
I'm sorry.
On your slide, they say there were 50,798 arrests.
So
that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. They don't all stay in the jail at the same time. They come and go.
Okay.
It was 50,000 arrests, 17,700 and some odd number of people.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my question is for Angie, this Angie, no? So I see you are very passionate about this one. Can you tell me a little bit about your background? Why are you passionate about this one?
Sure. Well, I was raised in a family where you were not the worst thing you ever did in your life. And so my parents, my mom was a social worker, my dad went to treatment when I was 7, so he was sober for 40 years. And both of my parents worked in the community. My mom, she worked as a social worker, but then when my dad went to treatment, my parents became very active in AA and Al-Anon. So spent a lot of time working with folks that were in recovery or going into recovery. My dad would spend a lot of time working with the unhoused population in his life. When he retired, he volunteered to be the handyman at Beacon House, worked for Feed My People, and then worked with the Chippewa Valley Street Ministry. My mom got a terminal diagnosis 17 years ago, and she spent her last 3 years before she died building Angel Space, which was a place where a hospice house where folks could go. So I would tell you it's just kind of in my blood.
Okay, no, I have now 2 questions. Thank you, and we really thank you. May God bless your mom in eternal peace. Really, really. So my question is, the presentation was excellent, but have you guys tried to incorporate these people, the developers, the people who own the houses? Have you guys tried to reach out to them and say, you know what, that's what you said about the community. You said about Eau Claire City, Eau Claire County, the Chambers of Commerce. What about the people who own the houses? The people who can rent them?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you not yet. So there's been a substantial amount of work connecting with folks. And right or wrong, like right now, we don't have anything to bring to landlords. So in Milwaukee County, what Jim Matthey talks about is their housing unit. So they're set up different than we are in Eau Claire County, but they're able to offer double security deposits. They're able to offer, if a unit gets wrecked, they're able to pay for that. They have what's called master leasing. We don't have the ability to do any of that yet. So we have not engaged much with landlords, kind of on purpose. It's not because we don't realize we don't have to do that, but we just haven't really had a lot to bring to the table. It's on my to-do list in July.
Thank you.
And it's part of the community plan.
Yeah.
My last one. Most people I run into the street, the people live here. They say a lot of people are homeless in Eau Claire downtown. They are not from Eau Claire.
Oh, I can answer this.
So, hold on just a minute. Thank you. So, have you guys reached to the surrounding counties?
Yep.
Chippewa County, Dan County, Trumbull County, and so that you can bring them in and talk about this, because you said the community now we are like the hub.
Yeah, so I can, two answers to that. Yes, I've spoken with the person in charge of the homeless initiative in Menominee. It's actually Angie's counterpart at Department of Human Services. And then I spoke with a lovely woman in Chippewa County whose name I can't remember. She works for Jennifer. She works for a nonprofit. So we have looked at what are they doing in those 2 counties specifically. We sit on the Dairyland Housing Coalition, which is made up of Jackson, Eau Claire, Trempealeau, and Buffalo. So Trempealeau and Buffalo usually report 0 numbers, but we have been able to listen to Jackson County. So the question gets asked a lot, like people come to Eau Claire because we have such great services. we have great services in Eau Claire, but people aren't necessarily taking advantage of the services we have in Eau Claire. When we talk to La Crosse about this, because they get the same feedback. Like in La Crosse, there's rural communities that don't have services. And through their data collection, 88% of folks last had a lease in La Crosse County. So although, there are instances where people are dropped here or come here, I would predict that when we get that data pulled, the majority of folks that are homeless will have ties to Eau Claire.
We had asked Milwaukee that same question. They were also worried that people from Chicago might come north to Milwaukee, and they said it just didn't happen.
Josh?
Thanks. Repeating all the accolades for all your work so far. My question jumps to there. So the next steps you're saying was create a community plan, and you outlined all the points for that one there. But then I'm guessing that, and you can tell me if I'm correct, that the end result would hopefully have a mechanism where we can start just helping people get in the homes, get the resources. This next step, the time. What kind of time frame are you looking for that community plan part? Because one day we wanted to be helping people more than we are now. So I'm kind of curious what the next steps you see going down, because you kind of ended with that community plan. And if that goes well, then what kind of time frame are you looking at to actually get partnerships and programs going?
That's a great question. So I thought we were kind of on a 6-month plan until we talked to La Crosse, and La Crosse said, we spent 18 months planning, and then gathering information. Then we spent 6 months writing a community plan. I don't remember how many folks they've housed. Was it 32?
I thought it was higher than that.
So that's a great question. What I would tell you is I'm hoping to have a community plan done by the end of the summer, and then we will, by done, I mean we will have it written, drafted, and then out for feedback. Mm-hmm. We are doing that a little different than La Crosse. La Crosse said, we're going to do this in 6 months. We're not going to get input, and we're going to tell you what the plan is. So we're going to try to not do it exactly that way. And then we have to raise some funds. So we have to raise some funds so that we can go to landlords and say we can pay double security deposits. I neglected to tell you how fantastic Jessica has been to work for here at the city. We're working on what we can do together. Same thing with Nicole, who took Georgia's place at the county. So looking at how can we work together, who could potentially do some master leasing, things like that. So I'm hopeful in 18 months we will have a significant number of folks housed. We also, Angie said, we have Jonah at the table on Monday mornings, Altoona, Eau Claire. We also have Terry and Jill Christopherson, who are looking at their For Goodness Sakes fund, so looking at some fundraising that they're doing, which I think is going to be key also.
There's two other things that I kind of pertain to your question, Joshua. The first is that in Milwaukee, there was something I was thinking about what Milwaukee did. Can you repeat your question? It'll spark me again.
Yeah, it was just the next step in your presentation was create the community plan. I'm kind of wondering how long you think creating the community plan is going to take, and then of course afterward there's implementation, which would then take another amount of time. It sounds like you said
Yes.
6 months for the plan, then 12 months kind of get the implemented, if I understand the other Angie there, but that's
So,
what I was asking.
That did help me, thank you. In Milwaukee, one thing that was very helpful is they had a point person that worked in their Health and Human Services department that just worked with landlords. So for example, if somebody was getting evicted, the landlord never talked to the person getting evicted. The county people did all the communication, packed the person up, found them a new place to live, got them in there, paid that security deposit. So there was no hitch that happened, and the landlords loved working with the county person versus working with the individuals, and it also saved a lot of time and money because evictions are expensive. And then there was a second thing that I was thinking about that related to La Crosse, and that's blanking me right now, so I'll wait.
I think that the timeline for La Crosse is 5 years. Like, there is a housing, like, we need to build some housing. Mm-hmm. We can, I don't know exactly how this will play out, but with the university now requiring 2 years in the dorms rather than 1, there should be some freeing up of some housing. But we also are, I think, the #1 city growing in Wisconsin with 3rd. So regardless, we're in the top 5. So we're trying to build based on folks moving in also. So that's a challenge. You have to try to meet the needs of all of your demographics. There needs to be lots of building at different levels. So that will take longer to get more people housed.
I was just going to share, La Crosse had 254 people currently on their list waiting for housing, and they had housed over 100 people already. So they've had a lot of success in 16 months already.
Great. Ethan, did you have anything?
Hello, thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate it. I've got a whole page of notes here. I'll just say that, something you put on the screen was that, 30% of people in Eau Claire County can't afford the basic necessities. And I just want to ask the question, what percentage of the unhoused folks or those who are at risk of being unhoused actually work and, work full time? And can you just speak to how working poverty intersects with what we're talking about?
Sure, I can't. I can tell you of the 36%, they have to be employed. It comes out of the ALICE. But I can't tell you how many of our folks that are unhoused are employed. I'm hopeful that at one point we'll be able to once we collect more data. But in talking to Lucas at Soldier, there are folks that are there that are working full time. We have folks that we work with that provide that get services from us that are working, that are unhoused. So, but I can't give you a number.
No, yeah, and the reason I raise that is because that's what I want to kind of say is that everyone is working as hard as they can. Yeah. So thank you.
I can give you just a little bit of data. So the ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained and Employed. So that 36%, 12% of people of that 36% were in the poverty guidelines, and then the other 24% couldn't meet their basic needs. And there's a difference between poverty and meeting basic needs, obviously. So that 36% were all working, but either in poverty or could not meet their basic needs.
Okay, thank you for that. And then just one more thing. Did you say that, speaking of like industries, is there a particular industry where unhoused folks are more likely to be working in? Did you say it was retail, or is that not correct?
I said the number one place where folks are working in general in Eau Claire is retail.
Oh, okay.
It used to be healthcare, but since the closure of Sacred Heart, it's now retail. It just changed not that long ago.
I can say anecdotally, just from people I know that come into our department every day, motels, hotels, Walmart, there was another one I was thinking of, restaurants.
That's all my questions. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ethan. I have a couple questions, or just comments, and thanks also for all your work. Sure. Awesome. Have you worked or talked with the Hmong Mutual Association? I know they do housing and.
Yep, I met with True multiple times.
Awesome, good. I'm sure they're a great partner too with all this work.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she is.
Oh, we're looking at, so one of the needs that they identified is that they need some help with social work and connecting folks to housing. So we're looking at how can we do that? Like how can we have a social worker that works directly with the Hmong Mutual Association?
Awesome. Cool, thanks. And then I'm glad you brought up for our vacancy rate and how we need 5 to 8% for affordable, because that's what for affordable housing, because that's what we're trying to do with our zoning rehaul. I know I talked to you both about that too, and like have you I just encourage you to keep talking about that, because people say they want to help, and then we also get pushback when we talk about density. So I just really encourage you. I know we can help you a lot, but just to keep talking about that connection, how we just do need to build housing so everyone who wants a home can have a home.
Yeah.
So just want to put that. Okay. Did you have another question?
I did.
Oh, go ahead.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
So I just thought of this. I don't know the exact answer. I know the national answer, but I was wondering. It came as a bit of a surprise to me after having been raised in the United States with certain predispositions towards unhoused folks. You hear all the time. It's like, oh, it's people with mental illness and drug abuse and stuff like that all the time. So imagine my surprise to learn that a majority of people who both have drug problems and are homeless develop those drug problems after they were homeless. And I was wondering if you have numbers that are more specific to Eau Claire, because I know that's just a national number. And as long as we're here and we have a microphone, we might as well work on breaking the stigma, right?
I don't have an answer. Because I've been studying opioids for a bit of time, I can tell you that you're less likely to be have an overdose on opioids if you're homeless than if you're not homeless. That's the extent of what I know about that. What I would tell you is lots of folks struggle with mental illness and substance abuse, and they get to do that in the sanctuary of their own home. So we don't see folks struggling unless they're homeless. So that is something I usually try to point out when we're talking in public.
That's a good point.
I actually love that question, and Luke Feedy is our behavioral health administrator. We use a system called Avatar, and I'm not sure if we measure, like, did somebody come in with, or did they develop? So I'm gonna ask him that, and if we're not measuring it already, we can try to measure it moving forward.
Sure, then we got a couple more, so.
'Cause I guess I'm just thinking of myself. I deal with some chronic pain. If I was homeless and didn't have like my giant cushion bed to deal with, there would be no way I'd ever get sleep if I wasn't like incredibly drunk.
Correct.
And
You're very right, and we see that in our lobby all the time, where people are exhausted or they are just struggling to sleep or to function.
Emily?
Oh, is there a way we could get a copy of the presentation?
I did put it on the calendar too.
Oh,
I can
okay,
send
thanks.
it.
I maybe missed it. Thank you.
Great. And Nate, you?
Yeah, I was thinking about public services, and I've got friends who work at the Free Clinic, and they are super worried about the recent crackdown on foreign immigrants. Is there a risk that some of the immigrant population of the unhoused is hiding and withdrawing, and has there been a thought of ways to address that?
Do you want to touch that?
It's a good question. It's something that I do think about as well. I'm not aware of specific people right now in Eau Claire that are experiencing that, but that doesn't mean that it isn't happening. I think that's something we're going to have to consider, and something we'd be happy to take back to our planning team.
I think there's lots of reasons if you're unhoused to isolate in Eau Claire, not just if you're an immigrant.
Well, thank you, Angie's. This was really fabulous. So, Stephanie, you have something?
Yeah, I just want to echo what everybody said, that it's really hard to take up this mantle. It's just so challenging, and it's just an enormous problem, and we support you and we appreciate you, and we'll be there struggling with you. And we know that things might get worse, right? So like whatever relationships and problem solving we undertake as part of this, even if we are not seeing things get better, hopefully those relationships will and tools will allow us to rally as a community and figure out what to do. So we're grateful that you're here.
That is advice that we get, that it's going to get worse. Like once you start getting some different systems, your numbers tend to increase, which seems counterintuitive, but that is what we get.
I find anytime you start measuring something, it gets worse.
Yeah.
So you are correct, and thank you.
Or if funding falls also is another possibility.
Yeah, with HUD, yeah. Yeah. All right, thank you. I think we're done. So see everyone tomorrow.
Absolutely. Happy to pass on any information.